Welcome to this month's edition of NFP Insights. Today I've got my very good friend Gurdip Memmi with us from our Employee Benefits Consultancy team to talk about private medical insurance, more commonly known as PMI. How's things, Gurdip?
Very well, Martin. Very
Yeah,
well.
you good?
I'm well.
Been busy?
It's been busy. It's been a busy period.
Busy time, I suppose, hitting like we're in April.
Yeah, I mean, majority of renewal dates between January and April.
Yeah.
So always a busy time of year for us.
And does PMI fall into this space, this time?
Yeah. Generally, all renewal dates come at once for
Right,
clients. And when you're dealing with 35, 40 clients,
yeah,
they're all coming at the same time. So
busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. So today we're talking about PMI. So can you just give us a little bit of an overview for those that don't know or only know a limited amount of information about it? What is PMI from an employer's perspective?
Yes, private medical insurance is a policy which provides employees with access to private treatment. So the private treatment that we're talking about under a private medical insurance policy in the UK is your referred treatments. So if you are ever told you need to go and see a specialist consultant about diagnosing a condition, that's where private medical insurance kicks in.
So instead of going to the instead of employees picking up the phone and going via the NHS, they'd pick up the phone and speak to the PMI provider.
Yeah, exactly. So the typical journey would look like you go for a GP appointment. You're going to do some sort of investigations with the GP. They get some test results back and they'll say, your test results have come back as X. We're going to need to refer you on to see a specialist consultant.
Okay.
And they would normally give you a named consultant, and that waiting list will be, depending on the speciality, will be a certain period of time. For someone with private medical insurance, at that point, the conversation changes to say to that GP, can I have an open referral letter? And then you contact your private medical insurance provider.
Right, okay.
And then you can book your appointment with a specialist through the medical insurance provider.
Yeah. So why is it important for businesses to have a PMI policy in place?
Great question. Being completely transparent, if you're going to have a private medical insurance policy in place, in terms of budgetary requirement, it's alongside your pension as one of the more expensive benefits that you can offer. But the benefits of it is really about the intangible things. So if you've got an employee who you won't necessarily know has got some medical concerns and they're going through those investigations and they've been told you're going to need to see a specialist and that waiting list is 18 weeks, that's 18 weeks where that employee may not be mentally 100% focused. So what's the cost of that employee not being 100% present in the workplace?
So productivity,
absenteeism, all those things come into play. And that's an intangible cost. Like, it's very difficult to put a cost on that. Private medical insurance can insure family members as well.
Okay.
So, for example, on my medical insurance policy, I've got my wife and my children. If something was happening with my wife and she's on a waiting list with the NHS, again, that impacts me.
That's stressful for you, isn't it?
Exactly. And it's about the speed of being seen by a consultant. So that waiting list that is potentially 18 weeks becomes a week. Yeah. That's how quick the policies can move.
And so when you go through that referral, can the employee choose who they go and see?
Yes, generally what will happen is the medical insurance provider will suggest 3 people based on a location that the employee shares with the provider. And generally what you can do is you can do your research on those consultants. So what is their specialities? How many people have they seen? How many surgeries have they completed in line with that specialty? So you get a lot of information. And then you choose which consultant and contact their secretary and make that appointment.
Yeah. So that puts the choice aspect back to the employee.
Yeah.
So they're not just told you're going to see this person.
Yeah. There are, where budget is a big consideration. There are options now where the medical provider can take an employee's case, look at their panel of consultants, and suggest that this consultant would be the best consultant for
Right.
you. But that's a different option
Yeah.
available on private medical insurance.
And that's something as a business here at NFP we can suggest that to our clients or prospects.
Well, absolutely. If you're going through a review of the plan, all of these things should be discussed. As I said, there's a lot to a private medical insurance plan, a lot of things that need to be considered. And those conversations can be shaped by budget, or I want to offer the best plan possible, or I want to offer a version of private medical insurance. Any sort of discussion along those lines, there's an option for that.
Okay, so you mentioned the word review there.
Yeah.
How often is a PMI policy reviewed, or how often would you recommend as an expert in this field, as a consultant, how often would you recommend an employer review their current PMI policy if they've got one?
Yeah, it's got to be every 12 months. Every renewal, you should be reviewing that policy, and I'll tell you why. With private medical insurance, it is the one employee benefit that will have an increase every year. That increase can be between 8 to 15% as standard.
Okay.
That's without claims experience.
And why is that?
So that's medical inflation. It's also based on age. So everyone's a year older, which means premiums go up. Those two things alone can amount to an 18 to 15% increase. On top of that, if you've got a policy in force and there's been claims activity on that policy, the biggest clue that there's claims activity on the policy, because as I said, you're probably not going to get a lot of MI, depending on the size of your plan, is if you go over that 15%. So you imagine you're not reviewing your plans every year. You're absorbing a potentially 15% upwards increase every year.
Yeah.
Whereas if you benchmark that plan against the competitors, there's a chance of getting that cost saving.
And with your clients, when you're reviewing them, I know it's a bit of a kind of open-ended question, a difficult one to answer, but are you moving providers every year, or does it have to happen often?
No. So as part of the review process, private medical insurance is a very emotive plan. Members are engaging with that insurance company. It's not like your life assurance or your income protection policies where employees aren't speaking to those companies. Private medical insurance, if you want to use it, you need to speak to that insurance company.
Yeah.
So that interaction is very important. And if your employees are getting a good service from that provider, there's no real need, unless there is something else on the agenda, to be looking at another provider. If you're getting real negative feedback from the employees and the cost increase is zero, that's another sign that you need to be reviewing it and potentially moving it away, because what you're paying for on private medical insurance policies is that claims experience, that experience that your employee has got a medical concern, they're speaking to the insurance company, are they getting put with the right consultants, has it been a seamless process? All these things need to be taken into consideration.
So employee feedback is hugely important.
Huge.
And how do you get that feedback from some of your clients' employees?
Generally, if an employee knows who the contacts are at the company that they can talk to about employee benefits, and they go for a bad experience, they'll
be telling
let the contacts know.
Yeah.
But what I encourage my clients to do is put out a survey just to get a feel for what people think about the benefits, because that gives you a good steer then of what you should be thinking about when you're reviewing the benefits.
Yeah.
If I got a meeting with no feedback from the client, the things I'll be looking at is, what does a cost increase look like? What is my experience of the provider that the client is with? What have I learned in the last 12 months about that provider? What new things are they offering that could be of potential interest? Those are the kind of things that you'll be looking at, but employee feedback gives you a much more meaningful reason for a review.
Yeah. Cool. So we've talked on reviewing. So, with reviewing it, that assumes you've already got a policy in place. What would you say to somebody that's heard about PMI, a corporate client that's heard of PMI that don't have a policy in place? What would you say to them, or are there three things that you could pinpoint that to make them kind of consider it?
The three questions I would probably ask myself if I was an employer who doesn't offer private medical insurance is, how are you going to measure the cost of absenteeism? Can a private medical insurance policy help with that cost? When you look at your competitors, private medical insurance is a highly sought after benefit. So when you're looking at your competitors, are they offering private medical insurance? Depending on your industry, majority of your competitors probably will be. And the third question is, why are you not offering private medical insurance? Once you know the benefits of it and what it can do for your employees, what is it that's stopping you from offering that benefit? Is it budget restrictions? Because if you're looking at it and thinking it's too expensive, there are alternative options. You might not have the all singing, all dancing private medical insurance policy, but there's certain providers out there now where you can tailor your plan quite heavily. So you can offer a version of private medical insurance.
And is that something if someone got in touch with you, would you pull the options together and build that proposal for them just so they can see the pricing options? Or
100%, yeah. It would be a conversation of, what are you looking to provide? What does your budget look like? Because it is quite a complex benefit, and there are tweaks that you can make to that benefit which change the pricing dramatically. So after a good conversation with somebody who wants to talk about private medical insurance, you can pretty much go away and know which provider you're going to approach and what options are going to be suitable if you obviously know what you're doing.
Fantastic. So, I mean, this was probably a question that I should have asked right at the start. So when we're talking about PMI, is this only big companies that offer it, or how many employees can you go to?
There's, for a group private medical insurance policy, you can actually have one with one employee.
Right. Okay.
So it's designed for everybody. You don't have to be of a certain size. It does change your options a little bit depending on your headcount. So if you've got 5 employees, for example, the medical underwriting on that policy will exclude pre-existing conditions.
Okay.
Whereas if you've got 15 plus employees, then
15, 1 5.
Yeah, 1 5. If you've got 15 plus, you can then be looking at medical history disregarded, is what it's called. And what that effectively means is pre-existing conditions can be included on claims. And obviously that's where your employees will be most comfortable, because you'll be offering a plan where there's no exclusions per se. One of the major things that people need to understand about private medical insurance is it covers acute conditions. So acute conditions are a condition that you have that can be cured and you can be put back to your original state of health.
Can you just give us an example?
Yeah. So
broken leg?
Broken leg, yeah. You can repair your leg and start walking again. Chronic conditions are not covered. So asthma, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
That's really important to understand with private medical insurance, because I think common misconception with private medical insurance is, I've got it, I can just go and get treatment wherever I want, whenever I want, for whatever I want. There are still some restrictions on it, but an effective communication plan can kind of explain what a private medical insurance plan is designed to do.
Yeah. Nice. So, bit of a case study. Have you got any case studies, or do you think, have you ever used it? I've got my 2 daughters on it myself, and my partner Heather. Have you ever used it?
I have. I'm happy to talk to you about my example. I speak to many clients about my example. It gives a real good understanding of how it works in practice. So this is going back to 2017. Went to the GP, had a few issues in the stomach area. Did a few tests. GP said you need to go and see a specialist. The waiting list 13 weeks is what the GP said. Yeah. That's fine. Went back to work. Remembered I've got private medical insurance.
NFP.
I thought, let me contact them. Contacted them, got through to the specialist team to go and see the specialist that I wanted to speak to. And before I did that, I probably one of the worst things that anyone can do, and Googled what my specialist consultant can do.
Yeah.
And obviously the first thing that comes up is cancer, and I'm stressed out. So I've contacted private medical insurance provider at the time, and they gave me, and I think this was on a Tuesday, and by the Thursday I had my first consultation. And don't forget, my GP's told me there's a 13-week waiting list, and I'm in front of a consultant 2 days later. Within the week after the initial consultation, my consultant knew the path that we were going to go down. So diagnostic tests were the week after.
Within a week.
Within a week.
Not 13.
Not 13. So now we're on week 2, and I've had my diagnostic tests. And I'll give you a little bit of an insight about why private medical insurance is a highly sought after benefit. If I went for diagnostic tests where I required a day bed, I would have been in a ward of 8, 10, 12 people. In the ward that I was staying in, there's 4 beds. And the area that we're sitting in was probably the size of the ward that I had.
Right.
So it was absolutely spacious.
Yeah.
When I used to go for consultations, I don't know if you've ever had a hot drink from the NHS hospitals, but the quality of everything was just better in the private setting.
Yeah.
Consultation rooms were huge, seen on time. My appointment was outside of work hours.
Designed to suit you.
To suit me.
Yeah.
Diagnostic tests happen during work hours, which is fine because you need to be in that hospital setting. Had my diagnostic tests. 2 weeks later, got my diagnosis of what my condition was. So in the span of 4 weeks, I knew from going for the investigations to consultation, diagnostics to diagnosis, 4 weeks. That is before I would have even got an appointment in the NHS, like 8 weeks before.
So just think about it. I mean, put in the fact that you're an employee benefits consultant to one side. You're an employee of NFP. How did that make you feel? I suppose that's almost like a relief, isn't it? A relief, and your relationship with NFP is stronger then because they've provided this for you. They've helped you through this. Otherwise, you'd have been just left to your own devices.
And as an employee benefits consultant, I've heard of other cases where cancer diagnosis is, quite serious conditions, where there is that strength of relationship between employee and employer, because the perception is I was able to access these services because my employer provides them. So that's really important to understand, that reputationally, when that employee is out with their friends and talking about their personal situations and my employer offers
this,
that's a great endorsement for the reputation of the business.
It's a great recruitment tool, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Recruitment, retention.
Yeah, and it comes back to, are your competitors offering private medical insurance? And then if there's people within the organisation with examples of how private medical insurance has helped them, it's a significant factor, which is why it requires the investment that it does.
Yeah, but there's real value in that.
Massive.
And it's like with any product, you only find out how good it is and how valuable it is
when you use it. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I think we'll leave it there. I mean that's opened my eyes up to the kind of to PMI. It's been really useful speaking to you today. So hopefully you enjoyed it too. If you do have any questions for us here at NFP about PMI or any of the other benefits that we could support your business with, please just visit our website nfp.co.uk or drop us a line at enquiries@nfp.co.uk. Thank you very much. Cheers, Gurdip.
Thanks.